Remix. 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 Remix.
Oh yeah! Welcome to the Remix Morning Show. Right here on Black Liberation Media. In case you didn't know, I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and I came here to give you that boom bap breakfast. But not just me. I'm talking about us. Who are we talking about that's coming with me on this train? Get on the train, Jackie Lukman. There we go. Get that exercise in, y'all.
Hey,
What's good?
look, Kamathi is even back here getting his little groove in. You see his tail?
Look at you, Caretians. I see you.
Correct. So you're just making up a whole another.
Yeah.
Creations.
Speaking of Caretians, Ricky. Erica Keynes. She's like, listen, I just got here. Don't start this.
She's like, it's too early for this. It is too already.
My bad. I ain't even give her. I was just so excited to see her. You know, she ain't even got her stuff together yet. Take your time, Erica Keynes. You good?
Okay.
Let me hear her vocals.
Hold on. Let me
There
fix
we
something.
go. There we go.
Mhm.
Better?
Jack, much better. You sound like Aretha Franklin in her prime.
Oh boy.
All right.
Mm. Yes. That's the kind of thing you say before you ask somebody for like $1,000.
Girl, you sound good. Aretha Franklin in her prime.
What do you want?
Y'all look radiant, glowing. Great.
Thank
How y'all doing?
I'm good.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, we was before you got here, Erica. We was talking about the books of the Bible. You know, I'm always messing with Kamafi over there, giving him so many different names from the Bible. And I came across one that I was like, what is Maccabees? Maccabees 1 and 2. Maccabees had a lot to say, it seems like. And Jackie was explaining to me, and I was like, wow. Please, Jackie, enlighten the remixes on Maccabees.
So Maccabees is actually not one or two of the books of the Bible. It is not included in the Protestant canon. That means the Bible that we in the West use, who are not Catholic.
Mm.
So Maccabees is it is supposed to be a historical account of an uprising of Jews in Egypt against can't remember which pharaoh it
The
was.
Pharaoh, yeah.
Yeah, but basically
Pharaoh.
yeah, just
Damn
Egyptian
pharaohs.
pharaohs, So yeah, that's what Maccabees, the two books of Maccabees are, and they're not included in the Western canon
But
for reasons.
you know why? Because it's an uprising. They was like, we don't want y'all niggas knowing about no uprising. Talking about, oh, they uprised over here. We could do the same.
And you got to remember the books of the, well, I shouldn't say remember because a lot of people don't know that the books that are in the Western Bible today are the result of the Council of Nicene, where the three groups of people who were ready to go to war over the argument of whether God is triune or not, whether there's a Father, Son, or the Holy Spirit, or whether it's just one. These people were going to go to war over this. And they got together and decided, hey, instead of going to war, why don't we collect all of the religious scrolls that we know of, that we can find, and let's decide which ones we are going to put into this book.
Mm-hmm.
So the Bible that the Protestant Bible that we have now is not the complete all of the books of the so-called Bible, because some of them were literally voted not to be put in it. The Catholic Bible has a few more books than the Protestant Bible, but the Bible that is the most complete is it's the oldest illustrated Bible in the world.
The Torah?
Huh?
Would it be the Torah? Or
Nope.
Okay.
It is the doggone it. It's the Christian
Scrolls?
Orthodox, the Eastern Orthodox Christian Orthodox Bible in Ethiopia.
That makes sense.
So yeah. So
I think
there's a lot. There's a lot.
I think that was back in 925, the Nicene Conference. They got together and was like, "Yo, man, let's capitalize off this mind control right here." Did a little bit of reading back in my day. Erica, what did you start off with when you got into religion and stuff like that? What was it? Baptist, Catholic, what?
Interesting for you to assume that I'm into religion. No, I was listening to that and I had no idea what Jackie was talking about in terms of the books, because funny enough, I've gone to Bible school as a youth. I was forced to do that. Don't ask me no questions. And I was also one of the spiritual dancers at the church.
So it was definitely Baptist.
No, well, I went to a bunch because my mother is not, my grandparents were Catholic and then they moved here and then I guess they became Baptist. Not really sure. There's a lot of Christian denominations flowing around my family. We at one point when I was in high school, I was going to a non-denominational church around here with my aunts, primarily because, they had teen nights and that was fun. A lot of free stuff. But I myself am not, I would say I'm like non-theist, not so much atheist, but I don't follow any particular religion. I'm like aware of it. I'm not as critical as some may be, but I think that is from, I guess, really it's from the trip to Nicaragua. I think changed my perspective, even in the way that they understand Catholicism separate from the church. I think gave me some insight or pushed me to look into liberation theology a bit more, in terms of how it has been used. And then even with movement work, I think there has to be conversations with these religious spaces because that's where the community is. So you can't like shun religion and then expect to kind of organize folks. So it's so I'm not myself in any kind of, I think I believe in a higher
fall
power.
in the category of spiritual.
Yeah, well, because even sometimes I'm thinking that's like, what even does that mean? Like,
for me, I think spiritual belief is you believe in a higher being, but you don't want to categorize yourself in any religion.
But I don't know if I do believe in it. I don't have any particular thoughts around it other than I'm open to listening to other people's ideas around these things and formulating those ideas in a way that's constructive. Like what are we actually doing with this?
Yeah, like you said, it's a big part, I would think, of organizing because that's where some people dedicate their life to. So you got to come to their playing field, I would assume.
Yeah.
When it comes to organizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mind control, boy. I tell you, but for some faith,
how we get to mind control?
What is not? How are we back at mind control?
I mean, because it's steering you to a certain faith, a belief in something that's outside of you, where you feel like it's the most powerful, and it almost takes accountability from yourself. Like when you be like, okay, God help me through this, or the devil made me do it. It's taking accountability. To me, it's taking accountability from yourself.
My cousin used to say that all the time.
And putting it on somebody else. I mean,
well,
big ass. The devil made me do it.
It's
that's
like,
how you ask me.
Thank God for allowing me to win the lotto. God was up there like, you know what? You should win the lotto.
That I agree with. I think that
Yeah.
even in terms of, I watch my reality TV and
Yeah.
stuff, but all of those kind of things that they refer to as blessings, I think that is an interesting thing, because then on the flip
Yeah.
side, what are you saying? Like the people who
That
God just
suffer and don't
smited
get
the rest of
blessed.
us, right?
Right.
God
Right?
said, "Fuck y'all." So I
And
just I
that's-
think that's an interesting perspective,
But I
where
do
like people
yeah.
who have the means, I guess, and not really on those
Well,
shows,
no,
but
I
anytime
mean,
they feel like they're doing better, then it's a blessing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean that kind of thing. That's the kind of thing I hate about Christians, honestly. And I say this as
Damn, I
a
hate.
person who loves herself some Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
Christianity so much, Christians in particular, I could take it or leave it. I mean, we have done a really great job in really misrepresenting who Jesus was, and what he meant, because we don't grow up in our own faith tradition learning who Jesus was, what he said, what he did, and what it meant. We are taught from the letters of Paul, which are very, it's very, very much about obedience and and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But even that's not everything that Paul said, but that's all we get in Western Christianity. And because we are indoctrinated toward anti-intellectualism in this country, we don't actually read the Bible. We don't read our own
We
spiritual.
just don't read, beloved.
So people can stand up in that pulpit and tell us any old kind of thing. We believe it, we repeat it, and we don't realize how absolutely ridiculous we sound. We're talking about, I had this conversation with my dad when he was telling me, I thank God for, blessing you with the kidney. I'm like, well, I appreciate that, but well, what are we saying to all the people who didn't get the kidney? That God didn't bless them?
smite
Who is
them.
still waiting on the list?
I like that.
And
word.
I'm thankful. Trust me, I'm thankful. But that's not something that I think I don't think I'm supposed to be like using my faith to prop up how blessed I am. That's not how I understand my faith.
Mhm.
My faith is supposed to be used to help other people who are being oppressed by the system. That's literally in the damn book. That is literally what Jesus did. So everybody else who calls themselves Christians, who are running around talking about, oh, I'm blessed and highly favored, all the, oh, I got a raise, bless the Lord. And, everything is about that individual being blessed. That is not what he told us to do at all.
So whenever y'all confused, just think, what would Jackie do? Oh, Jesus.
That's right. That's right. And send in your tithes, you cheap thump. No.
Speaking of, you can donate at blkliberationsmedia.org. Pay these sisters up here. Listen, we are here again on this beautiful Wednesday, 19th of February, the middle of Black History Month still, and we are out here making history. So we got a dope show today. We got a guest coming through at 9. I got to skip out, but the ladies are going to hold it down as usual. Wow.
Where you going?
Who told you could? What is?
Because I find, first of all, for 3 days, you've been in my messages. Y'all coming, y'all coming, y'all coming, y'all coming. Y'all coming,
No
y'all coming,
reply.
y'all coming.
No reply.
And now you just.
I got a meeting. You know
But you
a
ain't
nigga
wanna put
lying.
that
You know a
in the
nigga lying
messages?
when they get high pitched. I got a meeting.
Yeah, don't be defensive.
Nah, I do got a meeting.
That's the pitch of defense.
Meeting. What are you talking about? All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back with some more. We're going to come with some news today, y'all. Yesterday, listen, we was off the rails, but it was a great show. We got to meet remixers all the way from South Carolina to New York to West Coast, all the way to the UK. We had them call in and we got to have good conversations with them. So we out here, y'all. All right, let's take it. Remix right here, right now. Let's go. I think it's time for a remix on the remix. What y'all think? Let's go, let's go, let's go.
You're my baby, my lover.
for me, babe. Tell me if you feel the same way. Does it just feel so right? I don't wanna waste no time. If I had to choose, I know I'm gonna always choose to be with you. Cause girl, don't you know?
Come on.
Girl, don't you know you're so beautiful?
Beautiful.
I wanna give all my love to you.
Let's go, let's go.
Not just tonight,
Not tonight.
the rest of your life. I wanna be always here by your side.
Alright, let's take you to a time in space. Let me take you back to 1995 with the artist Kilo Ali off his album Get This Party Started. The name of that song is Nasty Dancer, Dancer for Money, mixed with a little bit of 2009 off Music Soul Child's album On My Radio. The name of that song is So Beautiful, and that was So Beautiful. Alright, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare, and what you can also do is share, like you care. And when I say share, not just share the post, donate to blkliberationmedia.org. And make sure you become part of an organization just like BAP, just like CMB. We got a whole lot of things going on right here, and this is the place to do it, Black Liberation Media. Let's get back to our crew. You know how we do.
It's a pink right now. When I'm in the club, I'm in the front row. I like to tip the hall. Niggas in the club.
Ooh, turn up.
Mhm. Nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Very lovely.
So, I guess we're going to get to some news today. So let me get out of here, skedaddle, and I holler.
Okie dokie.
Are you coming back or are you gone from now? You know,
I'm
since
coming
you
back.
ain't
We
let
got
nobody-
another break. I told
No,
you
nothing.
9. Yeah,
Okay.
we do 2
Because
breaks.
you got it. You got to
Okay.
keep him. He's not the one that you just keep giving the hall pass to. We have to make sure that he.
I told Jackie
He's
one day I'm going
going
to take
with-
a week off. See how it go.
Yeah, me too.
Unlike somebody else I know.
Well, let me know when you
Yeah.
take your week off. I'll be right behind you.
Well, let's get into some news, shall we?
All right.
Woo-wee, welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. I'm Jackie Lukman. That's Erica Canes. This is the Remix Morning Show. And Ricky, what's going on with the news? What's happening? What you got?
I have a story. 1 second. Ties in with Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a issue recently with kids unable to get to school on time because of Baltimore City Transit. So I'm pulling up the article right now.
Oh.
1 second. If it loads. But I think I did want to speak about it because it was at the top of the run sheet. I've got the run sheet now, y'all.
Yep. Got it.
But I thought it was an interesting story. One, I've been busy back and forth, so I haven't really actually been in the city as much. So I didn't really hear about this particular issue. I did hear about some other things that were brewing, but I didn't hear about this particular issue until I seen it on the run sheet. And then I was thinking, that's kind of right on time in terms of the conversation that was just recently had by at Baltimore at the town hall at Payne Memorial Church last Saturday, where we talked about I don't know why it's not pulling up. Jackie, do you see the run sheet? Can you?
Yeah. I got it open. I have it open. Yes, I'm sharing. Now you're muted.
Just on my mic. Let me make sure my mic is on.
Yep.
So I got some tech issues going on back here.
No worries.
A town hall, primarily on the concept of internal colonialism, but the actual theme of the town hall was Maryland as an open air prison, and just showing the way that Baltimore is kind of captured. And one of the things that was highlighted, shout out to Broderick, shout out to the brother Rafiki Jelani, and also Kai, who were the panelists that spoke to the kind of conditions. I think Kai was incredible. I got to see the playback of the videos. But really what they were speaking to was these sort of kind of ways that we are entrapped socially, where we cannot make any particular kind of moves. Like, we don't have any control over anything that's happening to us. Most of these things are happening to us, right? So it's why these things are occurring. So as the article says, the unreliable public transportation turns school choice into a false promise. So every day when the first period bell rings in middle and high schools across Baltimore, hundreds of students are missing from their seats. They trickle into class one at a time or by the dozen. Sometimes teachers delay the most essential kernels of the lessons until the stragglers arrive. The penalty for tardiness is measured in lost minutes, hours, and days of instruction that cascade into academic failures. As many as 25,000 students rely on public transportation system that makes it nearly impossible for them to get to school on time every day. An investigation by the Baltimore Banner found the city is the only place in Maryland where access to a car can determine academic success. Baltimore City Public Schools doesn't offer yellow school bus rides beyond 5th grade. As a result, children as young as 11 crisscross the cities on long, often unpredictable journeys that begin in pre-dawn darkness and end after dusk. They stand in drenching rain, endure sexual harassment from strangers, and witness violence fights on buses. Not having a safe, dependable ride to school is shaping students' lives and limiting their futures. It discourages them from attending their first choice schools and influences the colleges they aim to attend and the careers they train for. We can edit here, because I just want to talk about that in terms of first choice, because Baltimore is unique in that way. Because I think that's the only other time that I've heard that happen is, like, I know my cousins in Trinidad and things, they get to apply for the schools that they want to, and then, or folks are going to private schools, right? I think in terms of a public school thing, we see that happen where with Poly and Baltimore City high school, and then Poly. So the big game is always against those two schools that seem to be often the primary first choice schools. But again, to the point that students are being moved outside of their areas to go to these schools. The other interesting thing I think that the article, if you continue to read, may highlight is that the public transportation system in Baltimore has been significantly changed. This is a public transportation system, I think, that was the exact same for like 100 years. Our Conrad Jamila, who's a Baltimore City native generations back, talks about that was the same bus line her grandmother took from elementary school. Like, her grandmother.
Wow.
Right. So for them to drastically change this, it meant that people are now having to re-understand a system that was always the same. So that also affects the way that students are able to travel. Because I don't think the issue, because I went to elementary school in New York City. I had to get on a train to go into, like, I lived in Brownsville. My elementary school was in Crown Heights. We had to get on a train. A group of us would meet at each block and ride the 3 together and ride the 3 back. So for me, the issue is not so much that students are expected to do the public transportation, is that the actual issues of school choice, of the ways that children are there is no control over this public system, this public school system in Baltimore. It is a reckless public school system. We see multiple school closings. They have opted for school choice, but also for these charter school systems. When DeRay was here, McKenzie, his role in government was the education system. We also know Teachers for America is rampant in Baltimore City. So there's a collective issue of schooling in Baltimore City that I do think that this highlights. Because if the children are not getting to school and they're then penalized for it, this is not any dissimilar than they're having no heat. in the
Yep.
winter and no air in the summer. Like these are all the conditions that they have that shows a sort of relegated neglect of the youth, because there's no investment in terms of making sure that these students are getting to school on time, making sure there's a curriculum, like even reanalyzing school choice, right? Why are Poly and City remaining the number one schools to go to, right? What are the resources that Poly and City are getting? Or in some instance, Weston too, but but that's an all-girls school. But what are the resources that these primarily pick school choice schools that are getting picked for? What are they getting that other schools are not receiving in the neighborhood? So I think a lot of these bring these things into question that really shows that there is a sort of neglect, that not even a sort of, there is a neglect in terms of youth in Baltimore, because these are not the primary or prioritized issues for the city. And there's a lot of the funding that's happening in terms of the schools. There's nowhere for them to go primarily. I think they are trying to invest in these areas of skate parks, or where they are investing in trying to redevelop these sort of troubled youth into getting jobs and these kind of privatized nonprofit kind of situations. But again, I don't think it actually answers the questions of the foundational issues of why we're seeing things develop the way they are pertaining to the youth.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about something as, it would seem to be something as primary to people living in a major city, which is public transportation. I mean, here we are in 2025 in the richest country the planet has probably ever seen. And we've got cities like Baltimore with a public transportation problem for public schools. This makes no sense. And when we were reading through the article, I immediately started thinking about the kinds of things people my age and older say when people start complaining, about, look, they closed the schools because of snow days. And, when people start talking about these kinds of issues where the infrastructure does not support the students' ability to get to school, then people's response, oh, well, look, when I was a kid, it snowed 5 feet and we went to school. We walked 5 miles to school back and forth in the snow. And it's like, people in this country have this bizarre response. It's almost Pavlovian to whenever somebody complains about what is not being done for the masses today, when it could be done, people automatically go back to, well, look, I had it much worse, so I survived. I did just fine. And it's like a romanticizing hardship to justify continuing to impose hardship on people, to justify not investing in infrastructure, and also to justify, just like you said, Ricky, punishing students because the city has not invested in infrastructure. And the people who are residents who could force the city to do it, they're not. No. So it's like there are so many different aspects to how a city gets to this point. And all of those different aspects are conscious decisions to disenfranchise the people who are being disenfranchised. It's like when you break everything down,
Right.
You realize, oh, they mean to do this.
Right.
Oh, they know exactly what they're doing. This isn't like accidental. Oh, we did one policy and we didn't think about. Oh no, that's not. This is benign neglect all over again. Yep, that's what this is.
And then when you think about in terms of like the history of Baltimore as the foundational city for redlining, right? They constructed redlining. Professor or Dr. Lawrence Brown, who speaks about the Black Butterfly and the White Owl kind of construction of Baltimore City, that you can see clearly the ways that it still remains segregated. Right. So and then on top of that, this infrastructure issue. And I think that was the main kind of pushback to this sort of refiguration of the transit system, is that it will, in fact, cut out portions of the community that have been reliant and determined on this. 4th of July, we went down to the harbor. Like my mother and I, we did a staycation kind of thing. Zion loves those. Raising a petty blues child. But we did. That's around my mom's birthday. So we do the hotel kind of stayaways, and then when you go down there, it's hard. The back and forth in 4th of July, those holiday weekends. But when we go down there, and then we meet this lady, this woman, my mother's talking her up because we're outside, and it's like, it has to be like almost midnight. We're still at the harbor walking around and stuff. And she's talking this lady up, and she was like, I'm meeting my good girlfriend. We always come down the harbor. You know how they, talk down here. We always come down the harbor, and she's waiting on her friend. And then, so when her friend came, me and my mom left. And then we went back out there in the morning because we like to see the sunrise and take Zion to see that. And that lady was sitting there on the bench because she missed that bus. And she stayed out there all night. Because she does not know this new bus schedule. And this is a bus schedule that's been in effect, I want to say, over 3 years. And she missed the bus. So this is she's not, she looks like someone who, she's not, obviously doesn't have the wealth or the means and things like that. So she is relying on these kind of things, right? Mm-hmm. So I do think it does speak to who is this for? Who is the development of the city actually for? And even when you talk about downtown in that harbor area, all those affordable housing, who is it for? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the question that really, even the redevelopment of West Baltimore, which is like, yes, good, we should redevelop West Baltimore because it has been neglected. But then you're redeveloping West Baltimore and pushing West Baltimore out, pushing the people out, or making it difficult for the kids to get to and from. So the infrastructure question, I think, is a really good question because this is a democratically ran city for decades. And the infrastructure of this city has been depleting for decades. And the funding for this city has been redirected for decades, right? So this, I really do think it does heighten a particular contradiction that people actually need to really interrogate in the city in terms of what we need to be flipping the script. What is the money being invested into? And where could this money be going? How are we organizing around pushing for that? Because even to your point about the residents not doing anything, do the residents even know? How aware are they that their children are not getting to and from school on time? Because if they're at work, if you're leaving out before your child does, the expectation is you out there doing, you on that bus. So until the truancy notices come home, what do they know?
Right.
And then by then it's a fine on the parent.
Wow. So it's the lack of investment in infrastructure, and then the punishing or the judgment of the kids as being truants. And then it's the punishment of the parents for being bad parents, for raising truant kids and for not know. Wow. That I love it when you can just expose how the system is working exactly the way it is designed to work. And I mean, that none of this is by accident. This is God.
I have a question though, Jackie. How did that develop?
From where you think it did. I mean, truancy was, and I have to look more into like exactly when truancy became like a criminal issue in public schools. But I suspect that it comes from exactly where we think it comes from: the criminalization of particularly working class and poor, and specifically Black and probably Chicano youth. I bet you that's where that mess comes from. But I'm going to look it up and see. And we're going to find out. And if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to admit that I'm wrong, but tastes about right to me. Smells like it. Yeah.
And then on the flip side, in the counties, there's no drivers.
Right. Like and then in the school system, because look, my dad was a bus driver. know, and he's like, don't nobody want to drive these badass kids. But then you look at when you look at the problem, the further out you go, when you're looking at a shortage of drivers for school buses, what does that mean? What do you need in order to be qualified to drive a school bus? You need more than a driver's license. You need a commercial driver's license. And there are different types of commercial driver's licenses. And it costs money to take the test, because you do have to take the test for a CDL. It takes money to take the test, takes money to get the license, to an additional license to your driver's. So then we're talking about economic issues. Just like even in the suburbs where working class and poor people are left out, because if there is a shortage of bus drivers in the suburbs, well, the wealthier families with cars, especially the ones with multiple cars, how are they impacted? Not that
Right.
much,
Right.
you know, but working class and poor families that either have one car that everybody has to use to get to and from work, or no car.
Right. Yeah. Well, you never my struggles, you know. Thank you everyone for because there were days where, you know, we'd be sitting out there and get the alert that the bus is not coming.
Mm-hmm.
And then how am I getting my child to school? Now I have to take a Lyft or an Uber, and that's to drop them off and to come back. So that's a round trip. And then I have to go and pick them up and come back in an Uber, in the pickup line. Like, so you can imagine, like, if that was one of the meter cabs where that shit just kept ticking, and not every Uber was like, no man, we can't sit here with you in this pickup line. Like,
right. Right, like, you keeping me from making some more money. Get out.
Yeah. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
so I do think there's a lot of issues and things that need to be contended with, but I do also think it speaks to a lack of sort of political power, and also a lack of information, right? Because how do we even start to gain the process of gaining political power if people are just simply unaware? So what does it look like in our work to make sure that people know that this is what they're doing to our children, this is how they're punishing our children, this is how they're neglecting our children, and then in turn criminalizing them, right? Because what happens, like, if it takes you 2 hours to get to school, you still going to school?
Right. Come on now, let's be real. You got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You are a child, and you got to get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning because you got a multi-hour commute to school, and you're expected to get there, be alert, pay attention all day long. And here we are, adults, and we hate driving into work. Why do we think our kids will fare better with the same kind of commute time than we fare when we are? Come on, man. Anyway.
Do you have any other stories, Jackie?
Yes, I do. So this, I know people are going to be upset and you know, go ahead and be mad, but I really wanted to get into this boycott thing because I'm very confused about. I'm confused. So the NAACP has issued statements. They have said things. They have provided a list of companies that dump DEI in its tactical spending guide, a tactical spending guide for Black Americans. The NAACP wants Black Americans to steer their buying power toward corporations that haven't pulled back from diversity programs under conservative pressure. That's okay. Yeah. NAACP wants Black Americans to steer their buying power, haven't pulled back, and the nation's oldest.
The rest of us could continue to shop. It's only when Black Americans stand down. The rest of us continue to shop.
Oh my God. And the nation's oldest civil rights organization is listing which brands have stood by or reversed past commitments to DEI. The NAACP says the spending guide it published Saturday is needed because DEI initiatives promote the social and economic advancement of Black Americans who are projected to consume, oh, Jesus Christ, nearly $2 trillion in goods and services in nominal dollars by 2030, according to McKinsey. The McKinsey Institute for Black Economic Mobility. Why does such a thing Oh, God. Diversity is better for the bottom line, NAACP President Derek Johnson said in an exclusive announcement to the Associated Press. In a global economy, those who reject the multicultural nature of consumerism and business will be left in the past they are living in. Keisha Brose, an economic strategist at the NAACP, says they are not calling for a boycott of companies, but instead encourage consumers to buy in on companies that back their values. People of all backgrounds are encouraged to use the Black Consumer Advisory. NAACP is speaking with executives at companies named in the advisory for reversing their DEI policies, including Lowe's, Target, Walmart, Amazon, Meta, McDonald's, Tractor Supply, and will update its guidance as companies roll back or reaffirm commitments to DEI. Let's be real about what we are talking about when we're talking about DEI and affirmative action programs as they exist, as they do. Here we go. This article is from just a couple of years ago, 2023, how DEI helps everyone, including white people. And if you go down into the article, they really expose the problem with this whole response to what corporations are doing with DEI. Critics of DEI have claimed that it disadvantages white people, but the data may tell a different story. In 2020, Goldman Sachs announced that the investment bank would no longer take a company public unless it had at least one woman or non-white board member. But according to a 2021 study on board diversity from Deloitte and the Alliance for Board Diversity, they said that white women made the largest percentage increase in board seats gained in both the Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies, larger than any other group or gender. Data also reveals that white people occupy more executive level DEI roles compared to other racial groups. When analyzing chief diversity officer positions specifically, white candidates are hired for the lion's share of these roles, according to U.S. Census Bureau data compiled by job search site Zippia in 2021. 75% of chief diversity officers were white. So, if DEI did not advantage Black people in these corporate settings, why are we encouraging people to either boycott companies that have abandoned DEI that didn't help you, or buy into companies that commit to DEI that don't help you? I am not opposed to boycotts. I want to make that clear. I'm all for starving every corporation of everything. But a boycott, unless that is the stated demand, unless the stated demand is, I want you out of business. I am going to drive you out of business. I am going to dry up your profits. And we're just not going to buy your stuff until you close. Like what KFC had to do in, I can't remember the country. I think it's in somewhere in India. But those people were serious about that BDS, the BDS boycott of KFC. They were like, okay, no more fried chicken, none. And now KFC is having to close a lot, if not all of their stores, because of that boycott, because there was a stated demand and a reason for it that was tied to concrete, real material conditions. What are the concrete, real material conditions that a boycott of companies that roll back their DEI efforts? What material conditions are y'all boycotting? If DEI didn't help Black folks, if most of the chief diversity officers were white, and that's why they still hired more white women than qualified Black folks, what are you boycotting for? What are you trying to get these corporations to do by boycotting or buying in? That's what I'm not getting. Because if the point is to get corporations to go back to these DEI programs that weren't doing anything to help us in the first place, why would you want that? What am I missing, Erica?
Well, I'm over here internally cackling to myself because I just had the thought of, remember the election year in 2020 when the NAACP and the CBC found it super important to prioritize investing in small businesses at the time where none of us had shit because we were in a pandemic, and their whole focus was Black business, small Black business. And then those small Black businesses in turn became DEI businesses in these corporations, and then turned around and got cut.
Which is why
it's like there was no forethought, never any forethought. Even to this, all of this shit has been reactionary from the start. The NAACP moves in reaction to, the CBC moves in reaction to. So it's not even a kind of thought about what are we even asking for, even in terms of the workers. Like, what is happening with how are Black workers being treated in these spaces, even with DEI? I also remember during 2020, a few people in the Southwest, I want to say it was Arizona, who were DEI employees were getting their ass beat at protests and shit. So like they were supposed to be the ones to come into these businesses and talk about how do you have better conversations about race and diversity and all of those things. And they were getting their asses beat in protests. So like, I just think all of this kind of it moves us away from fundamentally what the issue is. Because even to say that 4% of the people who receive any kind of DEI incentives or were part of that as African people in the US, 4%, to even say that has done something for at least some people, I think really misses the mark on how we should be understanding what these policies that we are pushing for collectively should be doing. Why is there the settling for the 4% where we're like, well, at least it helps some people, and we should go back to that 4% because it at the very least helps some people. But then we have a 96% of the rest of us, you know. So I think that there needs to be more. We need to be more critical about how we are examining these sort of passive measures to kind of placate us. Mm-hmm. Because that's a lot of this came, like DEI was already a thing, right? But when DEI became a thing was post 2020, right? When it was the emphasis on these things, where they needed to show, these corporations needed to show at the time that they still had Black interests at heart, that they still cared about their Black consumers. And so that was the motivation behind that. Mm-hmm. But it was never really about an actual care about any of the consumers, because at the 4% that they can give or take DEI, that was a marketing thing. Mm-hmm. They can give or take it, and they showed that they could. Goodbye, because it wasn't a mandate. Yeah, it was not something that was mandated to them. Like they didn't necessarily have to do it. And Costco shows that, right? If we could, with Al Sharpton and the zombie Blacks that walked in there ready to shop. Did you not see how they looked walking in there? I was concerned. Like it was really, it was a little creepy. Yeah. It was very, very Stepford Wife kind of. But Costco and other industries and corporations show that they didn't necessarily have to do that. They wanted to do that, right? Mm-hmm. So I think in those instances, understanding that aspect is important, or even pulling that out in the language or the conversations about boycott, I think is important. But I do think we need to be realistic about even any of these calls for the boycotting, because this was something that was happening during the last 15 months of Palestine, right? These sort of random calls for boycotts that are not planned, not thought through, not communicated, not strategic at all. It's just like, you don't shop there anymore. That's not how impact is made. Even when people are talking about, like, they would beat the Montgomery bus boycott to, they will always bring that up and dig up, they won't let that rest. But even when they do bring it up, it is out of context, right? It is without talking about how long it took. How long it took to organize, the amount of people involved in that organization, the coordinators of that, the involvement of community and churches. Like, that was across the board. And that meant speaking to everyone and making sure everyone gets on board. That was not posting an image on Instagram and then mad that people still go to work.
Like, when I studied the Montgomery bus boycott, I was shocked, because I did not, because we didn't learn it in the context in which it existed. We were just told, hey, the buses in Montgomery, Alabama were segregated. The Black folks were mad. They boycotted. Yay. So when you actually study the history, you do learn what went into making the boycott successful. And you learn how long it took them until they were able to get them to do what they wanted. It was more than a year. And people are out here putting these lists, like you said, that, the Instagram calls for boycotts. And look, it's great. It's fine. Don't shop at these corporations. They don't deserve, none of them deserve our money. But if we are not calling for a completely different economic system that gives workers a different relationship and a level of control that we do not have, then I don't know what it is y'all are doing. I don't know what you're doing. I don't understand what you're doing.
Right. Because I don't understand how the labor movement or unions are not approached. How are the Black workers not approached about this? Because how do you have a boycott of corporations and leave out the labor? Consumers don't make a break. Corporations have shown that, because what they would just do, they would just raise costs, cut jobs, and keep it moving. Because they're not at the bottom line. What stops them is the labor. When workers stand down, business don't move.
That's right. Yep.
They'll find a way to make $1. They will. They can't find a way to replace a worker, because they're not going to do the work themselves, and they certainly can't do the work themselves in all 500 buildings across the country. So organizing, you can't leave labor out of that conversation and just make it about what this McKinsey data says, that we Black people are this much of the consumer, so we just pull away from that. Okay. Pull away from it.
Right.
Pull away from it.
Yeah, go right ahead.
But Target and all these stores' bottom lines is not predicated on the 4% of the DEI recipients or the consumers that came in there to buy Tabitha Brown.
No.
Did it help them? Sure. But removing it is not going to bankrupt them.
No. And that is where, because we believe that foolishness, we believe that propaganda about the $3 trillion. Like, y'all, now it's a different firm that came up with that number, the McKinsey whatever on Black economics, whoever they are. But then, people are responding to these Instagram and TikTok or wherever they come from, memes calling for a boycott. You don't know who's sending I saw one the other day, and somebody shared it, and they were just like, the text on the meme said, "Oh, don't shop at Target until our demands are met." Who's our? And what are the demands? People are literally sharing this kind of
Did
stuff,
we even unite on those demands?
not asking
Did I miss
basic
the Black American
questions.
meeting?
Right, not asking basic questions like who is behind this? What demands? I didn't see any demands. What are the demands? What are we asking Target to do? And how long are we going to do this? What's our plan when they don't respond? See, this and the reason the labor question is very important, because again, this goes back to the history of capitalism in this country and really around the world. The reason workers are so complacent is because of the cumulative effect of the repression of the government and the corporations working in collusion with the military and private militias to suppress labor organizing in the US. This is why labor organizations are not militant like they used to be. And not all of them were even militant. But at least many of the labor organizations would call for a strike to get better conditions for the workers now, other than the railroads.
Right.
You know,
And
you
the
don't
market,
you don't
right?
see as much of that anymore because union busting is easier for the state now because they've gotten so good at it. And the unions themselves are co-opted with liberals who will toe the line for the state every time and tell the workers to stand down. So we need to understand, we don't understand capitalism. We don't get that it is not a system that we want. What people are doing with these boycotts is to get companies to be better capitalist bosses to the blacks.
Treat them nicer.
And I'm sorry, I'm not. I didn't shop at Target like that anyway, but that is not a reason for me to
I'm telling you, that's more. I'm telling you, this is for me. I feel like this is an actual resistance for a sector of Black women because their whole personality was I'm shopping at Target, and my husband don't let me go to Target, and my husband no not to let me go to Target alone. Like that's their whole personality is I'm a Target shopper with my Stanley cup and my Lululemon. Like it is a personality. So it is that. So for them, yes, that is a resistance because that is going to take a lot for them individually to stop that. And it is going to hinder. They have to come to the realization like I can't. This is probably. Look at how they treating them because a lot of them are waking up like this is their first real call to action.
Wow. Apparently, I don't get out enough because I didn't even realize that was a thing. That
be some baddies at Target.
But you know, I was see you couldn't even let me do my little segue for you because you had to come in with your weird comment. Now I'm not gonna do your segue because of your weird comment.
Well, to be some baddies at Target. I ain't going front. I mean, it do be a different breed.
Target baddies, Target baddies.
But no, but listen, it is a type. I ain't gonna hold you. It really is like a type that shop at Target.
Yeah, Walmart, you'll see pajama pants and the big bun things that they wear in their hair. But Target, they don't dare. They don't dare.
Listen,
they got class at Target. Okay. You got class at Target.
Oh my goodness, Target.
Look, I'm not judging because I am Shein, I'm Shine and Temu or Temu or however the hell you pronounce it. I'm Shine and Temu bougie. I am in dollar store and thrift store bougie. But I just didn't know
about a Stanley Cup, Jackie.
A what?
You want a Stanley Cup, girl?
Come on.
A Stanley Cup?
She got a coffee. She got a coffee cup. Talking about a mug.
Wait, that's a thing?
Exactly. Just
what?
Stay where you at, Jackie.
Good. God. Okay.
All right, we got a guest coming through, so let's go ahead and take a quick break. But I was pondering a little bit, and I was thinking, one of the things about that whole Montgomery bus boycott, some people say, they should have just went ahead and got their own buses and stuff. I was like, them racist saltines down there, I think they wouldn't allow them to have their own buses. They would have put fire to them buses. That's
tell me you don't know anything about the economic material reality of Black folks in the post-antebellum South without telling me you don't know shit about how broke we are. All they had to do is buy some buses. Lord, help me.
Hey,
Help
I'm
me,
just a
brown
messenger.
Palestinian Jesus.
I'm
Ooh.
just a messenger. Let's go ahead and take a break, and we're gonna come back with a guest and some more of the Remix Morning Show. Y'all bringing the fire. Y'all cooking like Glorilla. All right, let's take a break right here on the Remix Morning
Let me
Show.
cook.
Hey, Erica know about
Let me
that.
cook.
Let her cook. Let her cook. What's good, everybody? Welcome out to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. Thank you all for tuning in at this time and hour. It is, what time is it? It's like 9 o'clock, 19th of February, and we are here. Now, if you don't know about Black Liberation Media, we got a bunch of dope shows that you should check out. But here's one show that I feel like you should check out if you haven't, and it's called I Mix What I Like. And it was Dr. Jared Ball. It was Joshua Ingram. And another brother. And they was talking about Walter Rodney. Let's see what they had to say.
As Walter Rodney pointed out, and this is a contradiction we still deal with to this day, very often the neo-colonial leaders will come before the masses of the people and say, hey, I'm an African just like you. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm a Black nationalist. Oppressor is. Because you do have, as I pointed out, the Western nations that are responsible, but you also have a class of African leaders that are complicit in the exploitation. And where that becomes very tricky is that very often the neo-colonial leaders that are oppressing the masses of people will never come out right and say, hey, I'm a neo-colonial leader. I represent, British imperialism. I represent American imperialism. As Walter Rodney pointed out, and this is a contradiction we still deal with to this day, very often the neo-colonial leaders will come before the masses of the people and say, hey, I'm an African just like you. I'm a Pan-Africanist. I'm a Black nationalist. I'm an anti-imperialist. They push that type of those type of ideologies, and it creates a lot of confusion in terms of, well, who's who in Africa, who's who in the Caribbean. Then if somebody like Eric Williams, for example, was this very prominent anti-colonial leader.
I'm giving y'all too much. I gotta go check out the whole show as they break down Walter Rodney. I think, I don't know. I did get to read how Europe underdeveloped Africa back in my college days. But I don't know. I had to go check it out some more and see what Rodney Walter's perspective is on the whole thing. But go check out that I Mix What I Like. Comes on Mondays at 8 a.m. All right, with that said, let's go ahead and get back to the Remix Morning crew. You know how we do.
I didn't know I wasn't on mute, but who is Rodney Walters?
Walter Rodney?
You said I gotta go check out what Rodney Walters.
Rodney Walters?
Walter Rodney? Oh, you fucking names up, don't I?
I'm so glad you are able to admit that.
Oh, yeah. No ego over here, y'all. No ego over here.
God.
I'm actually one that can say I don't know with for surety. All right, so we got a dope guest coming up. Let me get up out of here and make sure you close the shop up, Jackie. And y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace out, remixes. Don't forget to bring your guests up, though.
Aren't you supposed to? He couldn't have done that one. He's not even going to do the interview thing. Okay.
Okay, well, we got a special guest coming up right here, right now. And she goes by the name of Claudia O'Brien.
Wait, hold on now. That's ghetto. Where's our little special effect?
I'm about to get there. See, I do mine different. That's why you wanted me to do this, right? I get the announcement before I put the thing on, but it's ghetto.
All right.
My method is ghetto. So yeah, fuck out of here. Come on.
Hey, welcome back to the Remix Morning Show. I'm Jackie Lukman. That is Erica Canes, and we are joined by Claudia O'Brien Moscoso, otherwise known as our beloved Clow. what is going on? What isn't going on is the question, I think.
Yeah, there's some big announcements for this week. So we have Cloud on because we've had Cloud on before and a few others to talk about the campaign of the Zone of Peace that we helped launch in April of 2023. And since we have had other organizations become partner organizations in this campaign. And this week, there's another sort of endeavor taken on by the campaign. So Cloud's on to speak about it.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all. Peace. Can you hear me well? Can you hear me okay?
You're low.
Little low.
Okay.
Oh, introduce yourself, Cloud. Like, who are you?
Yeah. Peace, y'all. So I'm Claudia O'Brien Moscoso, one of the co-coordinators of the BAP Haiti Americas team. I'm based in Lima, Peru, and right now we're, as you're saying, getting ready to sort of hit this new phase of the campaign. And really why I basically moved down here was to organize our folks and our partner organizations and make new connections with folks around the Zone of Peace campaign. And so February 21st, and just on Friday in 2 days, we'll be launching the U.S. NATO Out of Our Americas network. In Spanish is the Red Estados Unidos OTAN Fuera de Nuestra América. So this is the mass popular structure of the campaign. So it will be carrying forward the demands of the campaign, right? Which include closing SOFCOM bases, returning Guantanamo to Cuba, which right now is extremely pertinent with the headlines, right? So
Mira.
we're launching the network.
Mira.
Right now we have about. Can you?
You might want to
folks
hold
hear
your
me?
mic closer to your mouth so you can hear you better.
Yeah,
Okay.
there was a better way to
Gracias.
do that.
No, appreciate. I've been on without.
Nope.
No, that took the audio out completely. There was a better way to manage that because I was going to wait for you to pause.
Yeah. I would.
So for those who did not hear or could not hear what Cloud was saying, Cloud is currently in Lima, Peru. She is the co-coordinator in the field operations support for the Black Alliance for Peace. She is the co-coordinator of the Haiti Americas team. So because BAP has helped launch the Zone of Peace, we are moving towards the more mass movement portion of the campaign, which is the network. So Cloud's going to now talk about what the network is. It's launching on February 21st, which is this Friday. So that's a brief of what she said in case you could not hear.
Yes, sorry about that. Is this better? Can folks hear me better now? Okay. I hope this works. But so right, the network is the mass. Cool. I'm glad. The network is the mass popular structure that is going to carry forward the campaign, right? So as you said, we launched in 2023, April 2023, with a few partner orgs, and since then we've been working with about a dozen or more or so organizations, mostly in the Caribbean and Latin America. So that we made sure that this is a campaign that's not just led by the North, right? But so we've been working for the past year and a half, sort of building amongst each other, right, and meeting regularly, but also really consolidating what the structure is going to look like, what those demands even look like, and sort of what are the demands of their mass bases on the ground, right? So since then, we've sort of consolidated the campaign a little bit better, I would say, and now we're ready to open it up to action, right? To bring, because in any campaign and in any situation, any organizing, you can have the best ideas, you can have the best campaign, you can have the best lines and principles of unity. Unless you have the masses of the people with you, what are you moving, right? So that is the work that we are now entering in this new stage, right? So far, over 90 organizations since we launched the campaign have signed on to endorse it in one way or another. So these are the organizations, of course, we've invited into the network. And also a lot of the organizations that we've worked with on different issues that maybe weren't directly a part of the campaign, right? So this work that we've been doing with MANE, el Movimiento Afrodescendiente Nacional Ecuatoriano, in Ecuador, around the Guayaquil 4 case, and actually even more disappearances and state sanctioned executions and murders, right? So folks that we've been building with throughout the region are also, you know, joining the network, and in a lot of ways are already doing the work that is a part of what the campaign is all about, right? Ending and confronting militarization, again, the Southcom bases, right? Rejecting and opposing intervention into Haiti, right? This is a lot of the work that folks are already doing. And I think this campaign, this network, right, really just kind of gives it a platform from which to coordinate anti-militarist, anti-war actions, and political education and efforts, but also connect, right? We've been able to connect a lot of diaspora organizations, Caribbean diaspora organizations, in the New York, New Jersey area, for example, with in our citywide alliance at BAP NYCNJ, with organizations on the ground, right? So they have those, they are building those relationships. They're strategizing together. More importantly, coordinating, you know, whatever efforts are necessary. So yeah, it's a really, really exciting time. Of course, February 21st is an important date. It's an auspicious date, right? The day of the assassination of both Malcolm X and Sandino, right? Two legends in Nuestra America that really give foundation to the politics and the objectives of this campaign, right? And what we hope to really be pushing forward, the work that we hope to be pushing forward with this network.
So obviously, and we could talk about what the demands are, but one of the objectives of the campaign has been, we know that the zone of peace, the call for a zone of peace was made in 2014 in Havana, in Cuba. But the reconfiguration of this campaign that we have launched with these partner organizations has been with the intent of a bottom-up process, because we've seen in these last 10 years, or the 10 years prior to us launching the campaign, that not only do the heads of these institutions shift and change, but without a people-centered mass movement to push these calls, then it just is reliant. It just stops at a state process, or it stops at a heads of state process. So if it is that the people want to remove these bases, then these calls should be coming from the people. But interestingly enough, there's been conversations about ALBA. So I didn't know if you wanted to talk about what ALBA has been saying, and some of the potential or upcoming meetings and conversations. And what is ALBA?
Yeah. So Alba TCP, similar to SELAC, right, which I've been on and spoken about before, are formations, really anti-imperialist formations that come out of the efforts of Fidel Castro and Hugo Chavez, and have been carried forward, obviously, since their departures. But Alba TCP is in so many words, was made and established to be able to talk about integration, Latin American and Caribbean integration, without the U.S. hegemon in the room, right? So or institutions like the OAS, right, which we know, particularly when we look at the case of and the country of Haiti, right? The OAS is just a puppet, body that is used to justify coups, or what have you, right? So, and really just against the people, the sovereignty of the people. So Alba TCP is in response to that, but has taken on, since the 20 years plus of its founding, has really laid a vision for a Patria Grande, for a united Nuestra America, right? And of course, Alba TCP doesn't necessarily consider Nuestra America as also including North America, particularly the U.S. and Canada, but right, so there is a slight difference, and we can talk about where the Black radical peace tradition sort of fits into this, right? But and to understand internal and external colonialism and imperialism. But so Alba TCP is essentially a formation of these states in Nuestra America, in Latin America and the Caribbean, of mostly anti-imperialist, but not entirely, not totally, countries and governments coming together around issues of coordinating around economy, infrastructure, different topics, right? And I believe it was 2 weeks at this point now, maybe a little bit over. There was a meeting of Alba TCP called for in Caracas. Right now, the head of, or who runs Alba TCP is who was the former minister, foreign minister, for the Maduro government, Jorge Arreaza. So it's based in Caracas, and right, there was a meeting a couple of weeks ago in which, obviously, all of the insanity coming from the current administration, but that's nothing new to, right? The Monroe Doctrine dictates in this region. So, but because there's this like elevated, right, level of vitriol, and we're going to be deporting all these folks back, and tariffs and etc. There was supposed to be a meeting of CELAC prior to that, but as you just mentioned before, right? Why it's important that these initiatives and these calls really be taken up by the masses of the people is because the heads of state can change, right? There was supposed to be a meeting of CELAC that was called for by Xiomara Castro, who is the current president in CELAC, but for there to exactly talk about, Trump's threats and in so many ways, like, okay, well, what are we doing, right? It was canceled because Petro, the government, the president of Colombia, canceled. There were some speculations around the reason as to why. I always fall back on Haiti, and likely that was why it was taken off the table, because that was going to be one of the issues discussed in the meeting. But so that meeting was canceled. And it was unfortunate because we have in one of our partner organizations, Movimiento Evita, based out of Argentina, is also a member of CELAC Social, and was there in Honduras and gave a letter on behalf of the Popular Steering Committee for a Zone of Peace in Our Americas. First off, congratulating Xiomara on calling this emergency meeting, and why, the need for unity and integration at this moment, and to raise certain things, particularly around the invasion of Haiti, and a couple of other points. But then, of course, Petro canceled the meeting, so it didn't happen. But Alba TCP then picked up the mantle, so to speak, and there were a few accords. One of them that came out of that meeting is that the political council of Alba TCP would be holding a special meeting to further discuss the concept and mechanisms available in order to enact a zone of peace. So of course, when I read that, I was like, oh, we got to be there, because that's exactly the work that we are doing, right? And so I think part of the work that we do, and even our, like I said before, right, we have partners in CELAC Social. There are representatives of Alba Movimientos that are part of the Popular Steering Committee, right? We are working with different formations and organizations in the region that already are doing similar work, right? We're not, we're not a USian organization coming down to the South and telling people, trying to take over or whatever. And I think that part of part of what is really appreciated that I've noticed is just having conversations with our partner organizations and folks that we are trying to bring on, organizations we're trying to bring on, is that that connection between the internal and external colonialism piece of it, of why it necessitates our communities to struggle together in a coordinated fashion, is what I think is giving a lot of these organizations fire, and for this campaign, and see some like, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, Winsec and Cop Cities are the Southcom of over there, right? So yeah.
Well, do you find um, raising these issues among communities in the global South, among the membership of the partner organizations, how do you find having these conversations and organizing there different from having these conversations and organizing here? Or is there a difference?
Cool. Child, how long do we have?
Yeah, don't have them now, easy
I know
on
how to save them up, don't I?
Well, it's a different world, right? The kind of conversations that I have up north in the global north, and the kind of conversations I have down here, are just it's night and day, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful, one, for being out of the U.S. and especially the Northeast in the winter, because my twice broken leg can't do it anymore. But also because I get to experience this whole other level of consciousness in different sectors, right? If I'm walking around my, fairly bougie neighborhood in Lima, no. But if I'm walking around the barrio I grew up in, or in the streets with the comrades at a rally, it is I remember the first time I came on to talk about the coup in Peru. I think I remember saying, because it was the first thing that caught my attention, was I came on the first day of the strike, just reporting and filming things, and I did not have to mention the U.S. Embassy or Lisa Kenna or Laura Richardson or Southcom. I didn't have to mention any of that because that was already baked into the analysis. And I think because people see it here, because we're on the front lines, right? Of like the global extraction, the imperialist savagery and extraction of these Canadian mining companies, these New York banks are literally poisoning. Or I see it. I can go to the river I grew up near, and it. You cannot. We used to bathe there. That was our swimming hole, right? You can't do that anymore. You see, I mean, you see it in internally colonized communities there, and this is why we can make these connections, right? But you know we get cooed here. We still live under a dictatorship here, right? And that is not because of the Republicans, mind you. That was because under a Democratic administration. It's going to be continued under a Democratic, or a Republican administration. But these are the two, birds of the same, fascist bird. Two wings of the same fascist bird, right? So these policies are going to continue, but right. So the way that it is sort of analyzed and the way that people understand that here is very much tied to, like, well, yeah, at the when I was young, we had to move from Puno to Lima, but to the outskirts of Lima, right, where there's still no potable waters, and they're literally still shanty towns up in, like, literally like dirt mounds, right, what we call the ceras. Right, so there's a level of people understand it on a very visceral level because it's a lived, right, not to be neoliberal about it, but it's a lived experience. And then, of course, when you have these conversations and further those points, right, and talk about right, what the U.S. Embassy in La Molina is doing, or why these new, particularly where these new Southcom bases are being built and for what reason, then you can continue that conversation. But I find that I don't have to convince people here, whereas if I'm having conversations with folks in New York or New Jersey, it's really tough to, I think, not convince, but like you don't have to convince anyone of their material conditions, right? But I think you do have to have and struggle over how do you connect it with what's happening out in the broader world when it seems so distant, right? So I think that's it's I have an easier time making these connections here, I would say.
Before we conclude, I don't know if Jackie had any other questions for you. But you did raise a point. I see Baraka's in the comments, so we want to know that you're in a very dangerous situation. But no, but no, I think it is important because you kind of called it out a little bit. Even in terms of how we are prepared to respond. And I think that's really important when we talk about the Zone of Peace campaign and the fact that we have been prepared to respond to Marco Rubio and what he's doing in this tour, right? We have been prepared to respond to what is happening on the Panama Canal because we have been in conversations, having observed this, what was happening in this region, and then launching the campaign under a previous administration that was calling the Americas its front yard. Trying to reimagine that sort of Monroe Doctrine relationship that has existed the entire time. So I did want to hear from you the importance of this sort of the work that we're doing on the Pacific Coast with these other organizations. And you did mention WINSEC and South and Cop City, making those connections, but why is there such a fixation on Southcom, and why do you think, or how would this reflect in the work that we're doing as it pertains to the conversations around the canal, the conversations around Marco Rubio, and what's to come in the region?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, part of the reason why I joined BAP was that I saw the material coming out and analysis coming out that was literally years ahead of his time, right? The conversations that were happening up north are so different than the conversations happening here. Like, again, I don't have to convince people of like, hey, look what all of these bases all up and down the Pacific coast, literally, like so my Peruvian, my Afro-Peruvian side of the family is from up north in Piura, which is a heavily Afro-Peruvian area. The northern coast tends to be more African. There's a couple of pockets in the south, but it's mostly in the north. Right, so Piura, there is Talara, which is known for, it's world-renowned for its beaches. It's like a world destination surf spot, right? Beautiful, beautiful beaches. I've yet to be up there. And I hear the ceviche is top, so I can't wait. But there is, so again, it's like beautiful beaches by the coast. But now there is a base being built, a Southcom base, and in particular a Space Command base being built. Right. So not only is Earth being colonized, right? The war goes beyond Earth as well, right? But so all that to say is that the conversations and the analysis that BAP was already putting out were happening here, but starting to, right? And so I think that the work that we've been doing and the work that we've been pushing and the analysis particularly is critical because it one gives, I think, obviously a historical perspective of why these things are happening, but it literally maps out the war that the US, EU, NATO axis of domination is plotting, right? And it's happening, right? We are at war. We say this all the time, right? It's not, we're not being facetious and exaggerating, right? And dramatic when we say this. It's for real, right? So when we are seeing, right, that the Panama Canal is such a huge thing, right? We're seeing Operation Trade Winds, right? And really taking hold of the Caribbean, right, is is one because and you can look at Southcom's own documents, own website, right, to see that I think it was even back in 2018, 2017, they were already talking about the dangers of China onto the region, right, and Russian China, but particularly China, right, specifically because China is the number one trading partner to many of, if not most, of the countries in the region. Um, but then also because many more countries have been signing on to the Belt and Road Initiative, onto different projects. Right, one such project being the Chancay port that just opened up at this latest APEC that happened last year, at the end of last year, which connects Asia to Latin America directly for the first time without having to go through the Panama Canal or without having to go through California, because it needs to pick up more, more things, right, to ship over or right. But now there's a direct Asia to Latin America connection, and that's a lot of money lost for U.S. companies, right? So we see that the U.S. is readying itself for a war with China, eventual war with China, and not so far off. Another issue, and that I've spoken a lot about, and I've written on, and we did one of the events that we did for the Zone of Peace campaign last year was a teach-in on Southcom at the Nicaraguan embassy in DC, which, Erica, you spoke about Cop Cities and WinSec and exactly what the connection is there, right?
It's on Bath YouTube if folks want to check it out.
That's right. That's right. And we had, Brianna from Diaspora Palante Collective, who's also a member organization in the steering committee, and of course in the network, and myself speaking on Southcom and military exercises, joint military exercises with Southcom and NATO forces in Peru, right? So we are seeing this massive, militarization, this sort of almost sea wars with both the Panama Canal, the Nicaragua Canal, Operation Trade Winds, right? All of the different naval exercises that are happening up and down the Pacific coast with countries not just in this region, right? Germany, Japan,
France.
Italy, France, they are constantly training here. And of course, let's not forget, Israel is providing most of the weapons, most of the surveillance, right? I think at least one of the Peruvian, and then there's my cat over there, sorry. Michi, get out of the way. Yeah, out of the way, bro. Pardon. But yeah, so we have this, explosion of military bases, explosion of joint military exercises, right? Huge militarization. And then you see a lot of the consequences, right? Like, as in the case of the Guayaquil Four, right? You have these four African children that can't even, okay, it was late, right? It was 9 or 9:30, whatever it was. And if you look at the, reactionary Spanish-owned media, and elite-owned media, that's the excuse, right? Well, what were these kids doing outside, right? And we can hear maybe a lot of the same excuses when we think about a Trayvon Martin, when we think about
Right.
Tamir Rice, right? So again, making these connections because this is the same struggle. Different geographies, different locations, different maybe specific contexts, right? But the system that was laid out is what is affecting us all, right? And so there is a need for that principled unity and action to actually expel these bases, right? So as you were saying before, right, these states of heads can call these meetings, can make declarations back in 2014, but unless you have the masses of the people actually carrying this forward, it's just ideas, theoretics, right? And Havana, that call was made from CELAC, but I mean, the call was also made by Maurice Bishop in 1980 around seeing the
Yes.
Caribbean as a zone of peace, right? So so we see, this is why we see that the Black radical peace tradition and this sort of and we'll be part of this launch of the network. The Haiti Americas team will be releasing I think it's probably up to 10 pages now, a 10-page article on Nuestra America and the Black radical peace tradition, really digging through all of this and really, it's a lot of meat, but it's really beautiful, and it ends with the time is now.
Yeah. I think thank you for pointing out Maurice Bishop as well. I think that's something that we discovered. We're like, yes. But one, it shows. I think it actually points to why this has to be sort of detached from a U.S.-Indian kind of leadership, right? We cannot lead this because the calls never came from us. So even if we want to date it at CELAC or we want to date it at Maurice Bishop, it has always come from that part of the region. So that part of the region needs to lead it. But even to the point that you made about the 4 boys that were killed in Ecuador, and then connecting it to Trayvon Martin, I think one of the things we should also connect is the El Salvador call for, send your prisoners here, and why we should actually care about that, right? This sort of prison imperialism that's kind of being transferred from U.S. outward into these states. So when we're looking at the militarization of the Americas as dictated by the U.S. and the West, we should also look at how they're dealing with the people there as dictated by the U.S. and the West, including what El Salvador does with gangs and how Trinidad is implementing things against violence, or how Jamaica is responding to violence, or how Haiti is responding to violence. It's all being dictated by these Southcom forces and by the U.S., right? And so there is no kind of sovereignty for these areas to actually deal with what's happening in their countries. But then there's also, to the point of sovereignty, the U.S. obviously has a lot of influence, but it really, I think with the Zone of Peace campaign being led by the masses of the people, or these mass movements, calls for is that these nations begin to stand upright, begin to detach yourself from the U.S. So yeah, I appreciate you for coming. Again, the website launches on February 21st. That is an important day. Claudia Jones, Ilhaj Malik Shabazz, and now we can add the Zone of Peace US NATO out of the Americas network to that list of the Black radical tradition on that date in particular. So thank you, Clau.
Thank you.
Thank you, y'all.
Peace.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. The producer's not
right.
here.
Oh,
So I'm just going to remove you.
We have to kick
Yeah,
Clau
I
off.
do.
We can end this segment.
I got shit to say.
Uh-oh.
I got shit to say.
Just say it.
What was your doctor talking about? A different breed. First of all,
don't get me to don't give me the lion. I don't know.
No, he didn't have to. Well, the breed. Well, he deals with females, so I don't know what he did. I don't know what goes on in your doctor's personal life. He's dealing with females and breeds.
No, we don't want to know. We don't want to know
What
anything
about.
about.
It's true though. But I still enjoy my galas, so I keep my little petty bouge friends around. I don't be turning on them like the rest of y'all. I like the free shit.
Same.
I like to wear the gowns and go to the gala. So I keep them around. But that's how I know. Like, I'm not a TikTok girl, but I do know like Target, and just the idea that one could shop at Target. Like, one, I think it has created this sort of ideal family dynamic, right? Where it's like the husband who never wants to wife, like it's a husband, wife, children kind of dynamic narrative that comes out of the shoppers, right? Because you always hear how much money the wife spends at Target, which is why she never wants the husband to come, or how the husband has restricted her from Target. But these are like common conversations amongst Black women of a particular sector class, like middle class. But yeah, so when we talk about like Target shoppers, yeah, they will be affected if they take this boycott, because they are the ones who have created a personality around shopping at Target. Don't nobody do all this drama about Walmart. You in and out of Walmart. There's no nobody creates narratives and stories about their experience in Walmart. but they do for Target. And then when you look at the type of kind of people who do shop at Target, there is a, you know, they got their Stanley Cups and their Lululemons and their Uggs and their, there's a thing. But I think they've gone out of their way to kind of create an image of what that would be. Like the what is the image of the middle class petty bouge Black woman? Like when you think of it, like the everyday woman, and that is the Target shopper. So
I guess I just don't get it. I don't, because I never. I mean, there's a Target Express, I guess it is, near me, and I've been in there a couple of times, and it's like, so what are people making a big deal about? What is the big deal about this? I don't. And you know how I love my skincare, and even in the skin, I was like, what is this? This is nothing. This is, where is my snail essence? What is this? This is nothing I want or need. So I never understood the big deal about shopping at Target. I never saw anything in there that was like, ooh, I got to have it. And I don't know.
I don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think because it's like it's discount. I mean, more or less, you'll see that for Home Goods. only certain people can shop at Home Goods. Everybody can't shop at Home Goods. But no, but that is a thing that I think is interesting, and I'm observing of all the wrong things probably, but if you look at the images of the women the Black women who stood on the roof and watched the city burn, were they not drinking their Starbucks and Stanley Cups and their Lululemon with their set apart weaves? Like, there's a look. We're not gonna there's a look.
I didn't even realize the whole Stanley Cup thing. I know it's not the Stanley Cup from the hockey thing. I know that. I was just fucking around, but I just I'm not that clueless. But I'm just like, it's a thermos. It's a thermos. It's a thermos. What is the big deal about a fucking thermos?
Listen, we do probably have to have a conversation about these collectibles and Black women, because the Starbucks cups that, I mean, again, people are creating personalities around consumerism.
Yes.
Just around consumerism.
Mm-hmm.
So the Starbucks cups is a thing too. Like, because I know, I know a lot of Black women who collect the Starbucks cup.
Yeah. See, Starbucks and their collectible cups, that's not new. That is actually, what is that? When Starbucks first became,
no, not the mugs.
No, I'm talking about the cups. Yeah, the cups, the seasonal cups that they will bring. Yes. This is what, the second time around for the so this is a phenomenon again. Damn. This is like, we can't even come up with new and original trends. We just got to do the same dumb shit over and over again, because collecting the Starbucks seasonal cups, that's been done before. And like, man, y'all need to just read a book, go outside, go for a walk, go look at some nature, just stop, get out of the stores. Jesus.
Yeah.
But I think, to that point, even speaking about Maurice Bishop earlier, one of the things that he said that has always stuck with me is when he came to America, when he came to the US, and he's seen, like, I think he was in New York specifically, and he was like, wow, this is the most propagandized nation in the world. And I bring up these things because, there's snark, and snark could be snark. This is not even to say that one is better. Like, I buy shit. Okay, right. I have my trendy bracelets on. I have, I'm into the trends too. But that's what I think is interesting, is that there's a sort of pushback. Even when we talk about workers, right? We talk about the labor movement and workers uniting, and the way that labor. One of the things that I think is important in understanding labor is that there is a disconnect between the concept of workers of the world uniting, right? So because let's say all the workers here in the U.S. get their demands, and they get their incomes, and they get their health care, and they get their part of. Right. that does not actually address the consumerism of this nation and how we are propagandized to just consume, whether we need the shit or not.
Right.
Which is how people become personalities of purchases and products.
Mm-hmm.
And how people become influencers, whether or not they get paid for it. but I don't think where things are made or how things are made is ever in consideration. Because if it is that people do get the opportunity to be able to afford their means, like, live it within their means, or to afford their lifestyles, and they can have the extra money to shop, they are using that extra money to shop, which makes the exploitation of the global South that rises, because there's still workers there.
Right.
And your shit is not coming out of thin air. People have to make it, and people have to build it.
Right.
And people have to put it together. So in one sense, if that is not a consideration, it's just really about how do we make the U.S., people within the U.S. more comfortable while we disregard the rest of the world. And I think to the point of consumerism and how we consume and why, even now, we have layoffs out the ass right now. And people's first response as a mechanism to cope is to shop.
Yep.
I mean, that's always a first response. I mean, there's songs about it. There's jokes about it. Like, when I'm down, I want a shopping spree, because shopping makes me feel better.
Makes me, releases the endorphins.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any kind of interrogation around that.
Yeah. And to your point before, Erica, on prison imperialism, right? And almost this like globalizing this prison industrial complex and importing it, or exporting it rather, to the rest of the global South. I see the same thing happening with malls, and like, as you were saying, right, like this consumerism, right? So my first time in Guayaquil was my first time in Ecuador altogether, right? I hadn't been there before. So I'm like talking to the organizers in Mané and some of their members, right? And I'm just like, asking questions about like, like difference between the Correa government, how things were under Correa, how things are now, right? And the different neoliberal governments in between. And I remember one of the comrades, she said, honestly, the thing that I think the U.S. has been doing best here is, I mean, one, exporting its bases and exporting its prisons, right? But like, it's malls. Everything is malls here. Like, there used to be parks. There used to be parks.
That's
and now
interesting.
And now it's just malls. And like, if you want to get together with your friends, let's go to the coffee shop in the mall, right? Like, it's not going out to the parks. It's not going out to the, different, I mean, shoot, like, we live in a beautiful part of the world, but instead of going to, let's just go to the mall, right?
Let's go.
We did go to the mall in Nicaragua, right? I'm like,
right. And then we did the same thing in Colombia.
Yes,
and we did. And the first time I went to Colombia in 2021, we go, and I'm on the plane, and I'm seeing the mountains, and I love mountains, so I'm in love. I am in love, and we get to Cali, and I am in love, and I'm just like, and then the John was like, well, let's go have dinner, and we go to a mall.
To a mall, yes, that's what they tell us. Because it's new. I guess because it's new for them.
Yeah.
So like, we gotta go to the mall.
Exactly.
Right. And here it's like there are no more brick and mortars. Brick and mortars are shutting down left and right.
Yes.
So
that's another thing. That's another thing. And the bodegas here. Okay, so this is one thing that I've hit the 3-4 month mark when I really start missing New York, New Jersey pizza predominantly, and bagels.
I understand.
I'm at that. I'm at that mark. I mean,
I'm not gonna say nothing about the pizza in Latin America.
Yeah. No, we don't have pizza here. We don't have pizza. It's
right, because they should stop calling that pizza.
No, exactly.
I don't understand what corn has to do with pizza.
No, it's disgusting. I don't understand what ketchup has to do on pizza. That's absolutely disgusting. That's disgusting. Yeah.
Sounds amazing.
I was like, sounds made up. Yeah, no, but so that's not a thing. But I'm at the mark where I'm like, damn, I miss Luigi's pizza so bad. Good Lord. But yeah, I'll just like ask, some of the cousins, like, oh, what are you guys doing later? Like, oh, we're going to the mall, or oh, we're, going. It's so, I'm like, fuck, I left the U.S. What happened? I thought, like, you y'all don't want to go to the walk and the Malecon because it's like the Pacific Ocean is right there. Why are you going inside?
Right. That is interesting. Because that didn't even dawn on me. I thought it was weird too when we were there and it was a mall. Because I don't think I've seen a mall the last time I was there.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they did. Because did we drive past like it was all these restaurants? Oh, but they were closed, right? I think the mall was the only thing that was okay because the mall stays open late.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we drove past all these restaurants and ended up eating at the mall.
That's when you're in another country and you see that, it's like, oh, capitalism is here too.
Yeah.
Damn it, I can't escape it.
Yeah. Well, I would argue that you see the actual free market in the global south where there are, right? Like where there are no regulations because US written constitutions, gutted that, right? So the actual free market does exist here. That's why our rivers are polluted. That's why,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, malls. I can't believe it. I'm like,
malls, prisons.
I mean, but it's so weird because as annoyed as I was, like, and even when we went this time, we had to go to a mall in Cali for something. We were looking there because there was actually a grocery store inside a mall.
Yeah.
Where we went to Santa Marta, so we go to this and of course there are all of these other stores, and I'm caught up in the I want that, and then I'm like, wait a minute, you did not come all the way over here
to
do that,
to go shopping in a mall. Stop it. And so it's like this indoctrinated consumerism that kind of rises up. Yep. And you don't even think about it. And the next thing you know, you're just like, you're in the airport spending money on little trinkets before you leave. It's wild how we are, how that creeps up and we don't even realize that, this is something I got to deal with too.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, here in Latin America, typically, like the culture is very much like go outside, right? You go to your plaza, right? And every neighborhood has its own central plaza, and life is always popping there, right? Like all the best clubs are near the plaza, all the best cafes and stuff. But again, that's like still consumerism. But at least you're outside and you're and the plazas are beautiful, right? Like beautiful fountains, and especially this part of Lima. I mean, all of this area really is still very colonial, but this particular neighborhood in Barranco, it's so weird the way that bougie neighborhoods here, their quaintness is how still colonial things are. That's part of the quaintness and the air of it. It's beautiful. It is, right? Like the buildings are beautiful, but I'm like, y'all, this is real native land, and this is just like, yo, we still Spain out here. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I think that actually helps me, and I guess coming back as an adult, right? Because I was born here, but we left when I was 6, right? I'm a Jersey girl, right? I think, Erica would say, begrudgingly.
Yeah, she always keeps putting that part in.
Let's not spread Jersey further.
Yeah, let's not ruin the friendship cloud.
But it's yeah, exactly. But it's so funny, just coming back here and I guess learning things as an adult and really being like, damn, like I wouldn't have appreciated this when I was younger, right? But yeah, just like walking around different parts of the city, you notice, such a huge divide, obviously in terms of class, certainly in terms of race. But yeah, you also see this like, damn, this place loves the US. It's all like, we fucking love the US culture. Everything is like, as anything that is related to that is usually going to do well business wise, right?
Right.
Shoot, my brother and I are talking about actually opening up a real pizza shop here.
It's needed because, man, please explain to me how the global South has not gotten pizza right. Pizza has all of the staples of Global South yummy
Well,
stuff.
DC ain't get it right either, Jackie. So
Huh?
them jumbo slices ain't get it right either.
Wait, who?
DC. We all need to be in that meeting together. Where did we go wrong?
That's true. That's true.
Because that jumbo slice ain't it. Not it.
But the thing that I appreciated, that I have appreciated from traveling the few places that I've been, and I know this is not true in every foreign country, but I have been able to experience being in a country without the level of marketing that we are subjected to here in the United States.
Yeah.
And while you do have stores like in Colombia, which is obviously a capitalist country, so you do have different brands of the same thing, but it's not like here in the United States, right? There are maybe 2 or 3 brands of, say, canned mushrooms, right? In a typical grocery store in Colombia, you're not going to have like 18 different varieties of the same thing. So there are different brands, but there are fewer of them. And then when you look at the ingredients it's like, this is processed, this isn't processed. Where are all the chemicals? I don't understand. And then when you're watching television or you're listening to the radio, you're not getting the level of commercial bombardment. There are commercials, there is marketing, but it's not everything ceaseless, endlessly, billboards selling you things all over the place. It's not that level of capitalism, of pushing, the population to be consumers. And that's really interesting to be in that kind of environment and to not be distracted by that. And kind of realize, I can pay attention to so much other stuff,
right,
and then come back here and be bombarded with it all over again. And it's just very disconcerting.
I think nations like Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua are targeted primarily because it is moving away from that, where other countries we're seeing is opening itself up to U.S. industry and U.S. businesses, even institutions like CARICOM, right? CARICOM mainly is used to address how can we compete amongst one another, among one another for U.S. resources.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really establishing an institution where they can figure out how to diplomatically sort of have that competition and ways to go. But this is not like an institution that's setting the course for how this region should respond. So I do think that's interesting. And to the point, I think one of the things that this conversation in general about consumerism has highlighted to me, even bringing the malls to or outsourcing malls to the global South, is just that there is a sort of hard line from Africans in the U.S. around people like this sort of what is the word that was big when you take on other cultures or whatever. What is that word?
Appropriation?
Yes. And it's died down a couple of years. The people got help. But but you remember, everything was called appropriation. And I don't think to what extent people actually understand. If it is that we understand clearly that the U.S. itself has no culture beyond the cultures that it has consumed, like Black American culture, right? And then the U.S. outsources through imperialism its way of life, then yes, people are going to pick up on those aspects. But I don't know if we can name that appropriation in totality, because people out in the global South are made and forced to know as much as they can about the U.S. The U.S. is not made or forced to learn anything about anywhere else. And the only time these maps come up where we say this part of the world, or this is where Pakistan is when there's a war or a coup or some kind of destabilization happening, and they throw a map up and they say this is where the places are. But you're not responsible as a U.S. citizen or as a resident in the where Pakistan is, or any of the stans, any of them. You're not required to know about any of that. You're not required to know about the culture that comes from that. Culture from Southeast Asia, or the culture from West Asia, or that there is a Southeast and a West Asia.
And why there is a Southeast and a West
and that
Asia.
is not a requirement, because, and I don't think that people really understand the extent of U.S. chauvinism, and how it manifests throughout the world. They only see how it is reflected back to them. And they respond to that. But there is no interrogation. Because for me, it's not dissimilar from, like, if these people grew up in the projects, then they're going to start doing project shit. Just them being Chinese don't mean, like, they're in the projects. So I think there does need to be a little more interrogation around how, what is cultural imperialism? What are these things? How does it manifest? Because I think that also limits the way that we even understand how does the ADOS manifest, and how do we break away from that?
See, just when the conversation gets really, really good, it's time for us to go. I'm going to be responsible and end on time, so I don't have our producer saying mean things to me tomorrow. I'm not having that.
Our producer left with no warning.
Well, yeah, I'm trying not to be petty. I'm trying to be a responsible adult. Today was a great show. Thank you so much, Cloud, for sticking around. We appreciate that. Absolutely. Join us tomorrow. Me, Erica, you're gonna be back tomorrow. She looked at the ground like, I am not here.
We'll see. Okay. Well, the answer had to be down there somewhere, because I don't have it. the answer to that question is somewhere.
Well, somebody will see y'all tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging out with us on the Remix Morning Shows. Tune in tomorrow for more. Peace, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.
Wait, did he leave the thing? I don't know. I don't think he did.
No, we're not on mix.
Okay, ending the stream. Bye, y'all.